good morning, everyone. Welcome to this morning's session. My name is Mindy. I will be your moderator for this session. I'm here to provide support for both you and the presenter. Should you have any questions or need assistance with your Zoom, feel free to find me in the chat and you can direct message me and I'll do my best to provide assistance. This morning's session is engaged in PBL Math and our presenter is Jennifer Guyford.
Hi, thank you so much, Mindy. I appreciate the intro. Well, welcome and hope your Google Camp is going well so far. I know we're still in the early parts of it, so I hope you have some more great lessons coming up after. I am currently in Florida at the moment. I just moved here from California in June of last year. I was a teacher in California at Norco Unified for 21 years. And my family decided to make the big move. And so I'm out here and now I am a high school math coach, but I have taught elementary, middle school, and high school. And I'm also currently a professor for 2 California universities. So I still am very much in touch with my California people. So welcome. So what I'm going to talk to you guys today about is problem-based learning in a math classroom. Some people call it project-based learning. Really, they're very one and the same. They're not much of a difference there. A lot of times people will say, oh, it's project-based learning. Some people say problem-based learning. Basically, we're looking at learning math in a different light. Not everybody is quote unquote a math person, let's say. And I hate when people say that because they're like, I hated math. And I'm like, hey, it's not that bad. But this is a skill that you can use with your elementary, your middle school, and your high school. You can just use for fun for your kids at home. If you're working with them on a little project and you want to kind of try something different, it's really getting kids to think. It's probably not their favorite word in the world because a lot of kids don't like to think, but this will kind of help them to get there. So at the bottom here of my presentation, you should be able to click on this link. And Mindy will also post it on the chat. That'll give you access to my Google Deck. It'll ask you to make a copy. Just click make a copy and that'll save it right into your Google Drive. And then at that point, you own it. So you can make modifications, use it, change it. If you want to revamp it to make it a presentation you want to give to your staff one day, that would work as well. You also have my information in here as well as far as my email. If at any time you want to email me and ask me questions, please feel free. I get emails all the time from attendees and I love hearing from you guys. So let's get started. Again, here's just my little bit of info there. And I did just present a building a thinking math classroom. You may have seen the popular book come out from Peter Jedenhall. My friend and I were both professors and we sat down and we started talking about this book and we said, we need to give our thoughts to the people kind of thing. We need to educate some teachers. And so we made a YouTube live presentation. If you're interested in that, I'll be more than happy to send you the link to that. We just did that last week. So highly recommend the book for all ages. He goes over elementary, middle school, and high school. He gives examples, lots of great resources, and that really goes side and side with what I'm talking to you guys about today. So just getting those kids to think and getting them to try math without giving up, like really teaching that perseverance. And so our agenda today is just to go over some research. I want to kind of convince you, if I can, about, if I need to, some of you are already convinced, but I want to give you some information that I feel will help you down the road to utilize this in your classroom. And sometimes breaking that mold is the hardest thing. Because I even know on my PLCs or in my team, I'm the odd friend out. Like I'm the black sheep. They're like, oh, what's Jenny doing now? And I'm like, hey, you guys, try this. And they're like, nope, we're good with just doing what we're doing. We've been doing it for 15 years and it's still working. Well, unfortunately, we're not teaching the kids we taught 15 years ago. So we need to kind of jazz it up a little bit. We need to bring in the interest again. And especially after COVID, we have a lot of kids who are coming to us with some deficits. And I see it over here in Florida. I know you see it over there in California because I talk to your teachers too. So we have to reach these kids. And the best way to reach these kids is to get them to think. They want to be spoon fed. They want to be, just tell me the answer. Just tell me the formula. I don't want to, come up with an idea. Well, there you go. And sometimes teachers don't want to think. So hopefully after this presentation, I'm just going to give you some guiding points to this. And then I will be doing more trainings that I will publish out on YouTube, where I will go over some more of this in depth, like how to lesson plan, how to do all that. But if you want to get a hold of me before that happens, before the YouTube videos were prompted, please, again, use my email. I'll give it to you at the end of the presentation. But if you already copied the deck, it's at the last slide. And I will be more than happy to set up a personal Zoom with you and your team, especially if you can get some people together and we can talk about lesson planning. Then we're going to talk about some professional development training, how to implement this. And of course, we got to give you guys some resources in this. All right, so let's talk about some research. So the first thing I want to point out to you is the obvious, and I'm just going to close out my chat here for a second so I can read this quote. This is coming to you from Defined Educators blog. If you click on that link, it will take you right to the article where I grabbed this from, so that way you can read further information. Project-based learning or problem-based learning, however you want to call it, it's called the same all around. Slight differences, but not much, is a great way to help students deepen their conceptual knowledge and their key academic concepts. It combines the applying of math with the 21st centuries that we have going on with problem solving. And ultimately what we're doing is creating a child or molding a child to critical think, to teamwork, to talk things out. And you know what that really prepares them for? It doesn't prepare them for college. It doesn't prepare them to be a better person. It prepares them to get a job. Okay, we need these kids to get jobs. Somewhere down the line, they need to learn to work with people. Okay, even if you're working at home on a computer-based system, somebody you've got to talk to. Okay, there's projects and deadlines and things like that. So this is just preparing them for life, really. So some research I found here that I felt was very informational. And of course, the link is down there at the bottom. I always cite my resources because I wish I was clever enough to come up with this research on my own after all the years I've done this, but they've already said it for me in a much better way. We know that math is very complex, and we know that there are so many different ways of solving math, but the best kind of ways to solve math is really to touch them on that real life situations. You always hear kids, especially at the high school level, who are like, Miss G, when am I ever going to use this? Like, really? And they're like, let me give you an example. And then all of a sudden they're like, wait, yeah, that doesn't make sense. There you go. Now, are you going to use calculus every single day? No, not unless you go into that type of job. But basic algebra, yeah, all time. Geometry, you'd be surprised how much, okay? Textbooks don't often touch on these subjects. What textbooks tend to do is teach algorithms and formulas and step-by-step solutions, which is completely relevant and totally needed. But at the same time, our students have become programmed that all they want to do is the steps. All they want to do is the formulas because they just want to get an answer and move on. But what we're realizing with our data coming out of the state testing boards and why we are ranking so low, I want to say, in the world of mathematics is because the students don't have the ability to test if their answer even makes sense. All right, and I've seen this time and time again, even with my amazingly smart, wonderful students who knock me out of the world all the time with their clever thinking. Sometimes I'll ask them, why? How did you get that answer? Show me a different way to do that. And they look at you like, but I got the answer. Yeah, but how? Well, I did the same steps that, are in the book. What do those steps mean? What are they asking you to do? So it's about taking the materials that we have. So teachers, I'm not going to sell you on a product that you have to buy. This is stuff that you already have in your classroom, stuff you've been using for a while. If you're brand new to the field, then congratulations. But you're going to get a textbook. You're going to get a teacher's edition book. How can you take what you have and make it more open? Okay, how can we make it more of an open task versus a closed task? A closed task is they get an answer, they move on. All right, so we know that formulas and step-by-step algorithms work. We know that they are needed skills, but what we need to get them to do is take that understanding, that foundation, and apply it to future learning. So they can come to you at 6th grade and go, oh, we can add those two fractions together if we had a common denominator. Now I know that this fraction is the same as this fraction because if you lay the manipulative cubes out, they're the same length. But I also know that if I find a common denominator, then I can add them together. There you go. There is that thinking. Okay. Instead of giving them all the information they need, let's give them a little less information. All right. So one thing we have learned is transforming your students into this educational concept of thinking, that wonderful word. We actually are hitting so many other factors in their skills that they can then cross-curricular over to other concepts. So engaging them, getting them to have a deeper learning, exposure to adults and careers, all right? Get them out there where they're solving real world issues. I even took my National Junior Honor Society when I was teaching middle school and had them go out into the community and ask community services at the mayor's office, what are some issues that the community is having that we could possibly solve? And they gave them a few ideas. These kids were wholeheartedly into it. Now you talk about cross-curricular. It's not just math. It was math, technology, science, artistics, media. Wait, isn't that what we call STEAM? There you go. This lesson covered so many standards that the kids didn't even realize they were learning because it was fun for them. They felt like they were doing something for the community and they actually made a product. And they got their community service hours for it. They had the pride of getting something accomplished. And then through that, the kids also started to realize maybe this is a career path I would like to take. All right, now this was done with 7th and 8th graders. All right, maybe at the elementary, you need to scaffold it a little bit. High school, definitely 100% have them out there researching in groups to figure out what would work best for them. So one of the websites that I tend to go to often when I'm looking for an idea is PBL Works. All right, the link is down there at the bottom. And they're also talking about how using PBL can help them make sense of the purpose. Again, that why do I have to learn this? When am I ever going to use this in math? Giving them those success skills, again, talking about that job, having the ability to persevere through a problem and to collaborate with teams, talk about ideas, and be able to construct a conversation about how they're going to fulfill that project. And sometimes it's learning to disagree. You know, kids often think my idea, I'm right. And you're, well, no, let's sit back. Let's listen to someone else's idea. And I'm going to tell you, being a teacher for 21 years, this is obviously a skill that even adults have issues with, right? How many of us have sit in staff meetings or PLCs where there's a full-blown argument going on and neither one of them's listening to either one, you know, and you're like, okay, we need to take back. We need to collaborate. We need to work this out. Let's take our personal vendettas out and just work on the problem at hand. And then there's also that rewarding teacher relationships. When you teach like this and you give kids a reason for learning and a reason for doing the math this way, they build a really strong relationship with you because you're no longer their teacher. You're more of a coach. You're more of a mentor in the classroom where you're going around answering quick little questions, but you're giving the authenticity, the accountability, the responsibility of their learning all on them. All right. So it's no more of this is what I'm teaching. We're all looking up here at the whiteboard. Let's write this down. Oh, you're not on task. Get off your phone. No, you cannot use the bathroom for the third time in this period. So let's sit down and let's talk about this. All right. It's really getting the kids to you coming off the whiteboard and you monitoring and being there to help. Now, if a group is 100% stuck, why not help them? Get down there with the kids and get them standing up out of their chairs and what we call vertical surfaces, get them out of their seats, because kids tend to think better and they have more ideas when they're not sitting down. So a little thing for you there on that one as well. So what is the progression here of developing a PBL system in your classroom? Now, are you going to do PBL every single lesson? Probably not. Okay, I'm going to be 100% honest with you. It's a way to get the kids to think about the math on some of the standards. Some standards are a little bit tougher to develop into a project or a problem-based learning, but there are so many resources out there and lessons that are already made. Okay, because I know I'm all about that. Hey, teachers, let's work smarter, not harder, right? But you can see here that student achievement then leads to making better decisions, which then leads to those skills that they need to get a job and be successful at that job. So this all has paid off. So some of us may be thinking, well, is there further training out there? I did find one company that offers a lot of extra training, and that company I will list for you here. But there are workshops, there are programs out there. If you just type in workshops courses to take for PBL, there's lots of them out there where you will get, you can do online, you can do in person. Let me see. I think I did link that image, and let's see if it pulls up here. There it is. Yep, this goes right. So if you click on that image, it'll go right to this PBL Works. All right, and you can see right where I grabbed that image, it talks about the pathway you can choose, talks about the service catalogs and all kinds of stuff. So I highly recommend checking that out. This is for getting teachers started. So if this is something you want to start learning how to do, this is something like, hey, I've been doing this. I need some more ideas. I'm running a little dry. I need like a revamp of this. Leaders and coaches, this is great for your admin or your district personnel, or if you have instructional coaches like myself. And then of course, definitely district. All right, so they're all scaffold to give you the information that you need. All right. Now, the gold standard of design is coming to you from PBL Works as well, and they talked about this design of how they implement these elements into the classroom. So it's bringing in the key knowledge, the understanding, and those success skills that the students will need. And through that goal, you have this circular motion that you will go through as a teacher, things like authenticity, letting students have a voice and a choice in what they learn, having them reflect on the process. When's the last time you really got an authentic reflection from a student where they looked at their math and went, yeah, I need to do better on that. I need to change this up a little bit. Let them critique and revise their work, go back to it. I remember in school the scientific method. That's a big thing. Having that scientific method process where what you hypothesize at the beginning and then you get to the end, you realize you're wrong. Yes, it stinks. And you're like, wait, I'm supposed to be right. I picked the hypothesis. It was supposed to come out that way. And it's not. And sometimes you have to go back and revise and critique what you did. Creating that public product is even better if it's something you can present to the class, something you can present to another class. Great ideas. Challenging questions, let's bump it up a little bit. And then that sustained inquiry where the kids still leave going, well, I wonder what else we could use this for. I wonder what else we could do. Okay, or what other models can we use? Now, this just kind of breaks down each of those items in those design elements to give you a little bit more of an understanding of what each of those sections work for. So what I actually did is I cut these out and I made them into little posters in my classroom. And I would have them go up and pick one of these items. Now, many of us who are teaching math, we have known of the math practice standards. Here in Florida, we call them MTRs, math teaching. You would think I remember the name of the R, but they're basically ways of getting the kids to look at the problem they're working on and bump it up. Okay, so what I would say is this group here, you guys are going to work on this math practice standard, and it would be comparing it to another way of solving it, or reframing the question differently so you get a different answer, things like that. Let them rethink it out and kind of, again, take ownership of that learning. And here's some more: the student voice, reflection, critiquing, of course. And again, these make great posters. All of these images I stole right off of PBL Works. And then your public product. I don't want you to think like they actually have to go out and make something for the public, because not all of us have that kind of time nor resources. But this is presenting. They could present to their class. I even had them present through Flipgrid, where the kids would go on Flipgrid, parents would record them, and they would just share with me. All right, so let's see it in action. Now, we won't play the whole video here because I know you guys have the deck, but I'm just gonna pause for a second and let you kind of see this in action. This is a teacher in San Bernardino County.
While you wait for me, look at the center box where you have your topic. Remember, I always leave off part of the title of the topic because you're trying to figure out the lesson through your problem. Good job, Jaden. Through the problem. So look at that middle box. Make sure your PBL is in front of you. So problem-based learning is basically switching the teaching around. So you are no longer doing direct instruction where you're just teaching everything as a teacher. So for problem-based learning, I developed a graphic organizer that looks a lot like the GATE template. It has the box in the center where I pose the topic, but then I only do part of the title, because oftentimes in the curriculum, the title already is telling them what the lesson's going to be. In problem-based learning, you want them to get there on their own. Okay, topic 4-4, blank, read the rest with me. 2-digit numbers. We're going to do something with 2-digit numbers. Okay, let's go to the problem box on your PBL sheet. Add 26. Explain how you solved the, and last part, show your, very good. What do we use to better understand your problem? Raise your hand. Dominic, what should we use? Use cubes. So go in your orange folder, find your cube sheet. Mine's up here. Cubes is like closed reading. We use cubes. It's a strategy to help us better to understand better. Good. To have a better understanding. So let's look at our problem. Then we start with the first box, which is the problem box. And that's where I have the problem typed. And I have that there. So when we use the cube strategy, they are able to write on the problem. They're doing all the steps. They're circling, boxing. You're able to see their annotations. So after we break up the problem with cubes, we move to the independent box, where now the students have an idea of what operation or how they're going to solve the problem. Think about your strategy. Write what you're going to use. So you're not solving it. You're just writing your strategy on top. The first step is just you getting your minds going, because the real work's gonna be when you talk to your partner, right? So I'm gonna let you work for 2 minutes by yourself. Independent is voice level 0. 2 minutes to solve this problem. go. In this step, as the teacher, I'm not expecting them to get it right. I mean, I would hope that they would, but for me, my expectancy is for them to get their mind going, to be able to choose a strategy and to be able to explain why they chose that. So you're going to keep looking and you're independent, because now when you talk to your partner and you have that discussion piece using your math talk sentence frames, you're explaining your work. You're doing the show your work part. You should have showed it. So now not only are you going to tell your partner what you used, what strategy, but explain it. In the partner box, they first discuss with their partner using their math talk sentence frames what they did.
I use cubes because it's an easy strategy to use by putting tens and ones together.
Eventually will lead into where they're discussing and solving on their own. So set the timer, let them talk for about a minute and decide within each other if what strategy they want to use, if they want to keep theirs, but they have to pick one together.
46. And then go down. And then go down one time. Wait. 6 plus 6 plus 6. Oh, wait, what? 6 plus 6. 6 plus 6. Yeah, okay, let's do that. What is 6 plus 6? So 12. Okay. So we're gonna add okay, that equals 12. You know that.
During that time, during the partner time, I'm walking around and I'm picking those students who are going to help lead the class to that lesson. So they're going to be the models. They're going to be the teachers. So Mercedes and Aiden, you want to show us your strategy? Last one. And this is going to lead to our lesson. We're going to do more of this today. And it goes with the place value blocks. Ready? Okay, let's give them our attention. So now they think it's time for them to show off their answers. Whereas again, you as the teacher know where the lesson's going. So now you have chosen 2 to 3 groups who come up and explain, and the whole class is listening. So this should look familiar. She just did a chart. She just said you're splitting it into what, Mercedes? Tens and what does this look like? Our math problem we used today, right? So you split up your ones and your tens. Now I'm going to be quiet. It's hard for me. So Mercedes and Aiden, you've got to jump in. Go.
This is the equal 12, but you can't put on the ones because the 1 is a 10.
And then once you get the students up there and they lead the direction you want, that's the strategy you choose to do as a whole class. You're taking over as the teacher, but they still don't know that. The students are thinking that they're still leading it. Turn to your paper to the whole class, and we're going to use 2 strategies. We're going to use.
Okay, so again, that is already on your presentation. Feel free to check that out a little bit more. But she gives a good idea of how you can utilize worksheets, like a one-dimensional worksheet there that she turned into an open task. She left some information out. She had the kids filling in their own strategy. Some kids were writing down that they went from the 10s and the 1s. Some kids were saying number lines. Some kids were saying, I was using this chart and I counted, those kind of things. So when you see that kind of learning, they take more focus, or they take more pride in it, and they focus more on those lessons because they're able to relate it to what they want, to see in the next, lesson that you're going to teach, because she's picking their strategy, which is, now they get to be the shining stars. So I also wanted to pick one for my upper grade teachers as well. So this is a problem-based one in geometry.
I'm Tom Gibson. And I'm Patrick Frazier.
And we are both teachers here at the Cabelli School. I've been teaching in an inquiry-based learning style of teaching for about the last year and a half. Patrick's been doing something really similar called problem-based learning for over 3 years, I believe. What is problem-based learning, and why do you choose to use that?
Problem-based learning is collecting and writing a set of problems that are scaffolded in a certain way so that students can come to their own understanding, work through problems really by themselves. So it removes the teacher from the center of the classroom. I almost never lecture. If I do, it's about a specific problem. It really takes the power and puts it in the hands of the students instead of just me doing examples and then handing out worksheets. And that's the reason why I started doing it, because whenever I was teaching conventionally with a textbook, I felt like I didn't really get to hear from my students very often. And it was really, honestly, it was just really boring. It wasn't as exciting. And to fall in love with math, you have to really own it. And I felt like I wasn't having that happen in my classroom. And as soon as I started doing problem-based learning, I saw it happen. I was like, I have to do this.
And we're going to be taking a look at some videos of Patrick kind of doing this style of teaching. In those videos, what kind of problem are we going to see, and why did you pick that problem?
Yeah, so this problem doesn't use any new content. It's just Pythagorean theorem. That's all it is. And they did that months and months ago, but they haven't seen it explicitly in a while, and they haven't seen it used in a problem in this clever kind of way. And they're probably going to look at it and think that they don't know how to do it, but they do. And that's why I chose it. And it's a really fun problem.
All right, well, let's take a look.
Because
All right, guys, go ahead and have a seat. All right, Kate, so walk us through what you're thinking.
Okay, so just as a diagram, this is the rope. When it's hanging down to the floor, it just barely reaches the floor. This is it when it's touching the wall. It's 3 inches above the floor, and it's 4 feet from the wall when it's hanging. And I didn't really know where to go from this from here, but I was thinking that you could do something like this, but I couldn't figure out how to find the slope of this line or how to find like this actual triangle. So any help would be really great. Okay.
So your diagram's awesome. I have a suggestion.
Yes.
Whenever you're dealing with things where you're going to be talking about things in inches and things in feet, just make sure that you're consistent.
Yeah. Okay.
So what do you want to change? Do you want to change the 3 to a fraction or the 4 to a 48?
I'll change the 3 to a fraction. Actually, no, I think 48 would just be easier. Okay. Miles, do you want to come up here and grab a marker?
well, I just thought of this, but if you say that whole side is x, then the height we're looking for is to here, so that's x minus 3.
So we're looking at your diagram, and the thing that you notice about the isosceles part of it, focus on that.
Okay. So, where am I going with this? Okay, so.
If the height of the wall, if the height of the ceiling is x,
Oh, then it's x minus 3 as well.
what's the hypotenuse, Kate?
The hypotenuse is the same as this side. So then, I don't know.
Well, what's the variable that you used?
We used x for it.
Yeah,
Okay, so
they're
what's the
both
hypotenuse?
Oh, x. Oh. And that would be in inches. And then, do you want to convert it into feet?
If I tell you a ceiling's 300 feet, 2 inches high.
Yeah, okay, we're going to convert it into feet.
That sounds wise. So Robert has another solution.
We already stated that that this point had to be the same distance from this point because it's the same rope with the same length. So then we have 2 equations, then it's just a matter of solving them.
I'm just gonna write what Robert already wrote, but bigger right here. So he says, and we know that if this were an coordinate plane where the edge of the wall is 0, 0. So the rope would then be at 0, 3 when it's stretched out, and then 48, 0 when it's laying on the ground. This perpendicular bisector would have to go through the anchor point up here, and that's an equation that's easy to find because we have 2 coordinates. What's the perpendicular bisector? So you get this equation. Where does it intersect x equals 48?
All right, so you can kind of see how taking something as simple as a rope hanging from, the ceiling turned into this whole mathematical discussion the kids are having. I can guarantee you by the time they're done solving this problem, you would almost get proficient or advanced mastery on Pythagorean theorem from about 95% of that class, okay? Because they are all fully engaged in what's going on there. All right, so let me go ahead and move to the next slide. So we talked about some resources. I'm not gonna leave you guys high and dry. I definitely wanna give you as many resources as possible. And oops, let's go back. There we go. All of these images are linked. I don't like to show my big old links. I think it looks a little messy and cluttered. So if you click on the images, you will go to some wonderful links. But the one I really want to, well, they're all awesome. But I really love Dan Meyer. This is Dan Meyer. Dan Meyer has so many YouTube TED Talks. But remember how I was talking about there's so many lessons out there already made? So you can see right down the way here, all the age levels or the grade levels because of the number in the front leading of that standard, okay? Of course, you can always take something from a 5th grade level, scaffold it down to a 3rd grade level, or even bump it up to an 8th grade level. So my students worked on these. They are amazing. My kids had so much fun with some of these. These are real life type situations that are just fun, but they're also teaching those skills really, really well. If you're not real sure what kind of standard it is, you can click on the standard. This is a live document. It's a Excel spreadsheet. He updates it often. He's famous for 3X math. So that's where a lot of this comes from, is his works with 3X math, okay? And my other favorite is Robert Kaplinski. He has some amazing lessons as well. One of his books that he has just published and is on Amazon is called Open Middle. And I bought it because it just has so many open-ended tasks to really get the kids thinking. But again, these are wonderful problems. Let's just take a look at a 1st grade problem. How many ducklings are there? Or how many soda combinations are there in this freestyle, wonderful, you know, thing that we all use when we go to these restaurants now, where you get to put your own soda in. Some great stuff there. And then you can bring it all the way up to an algebraic level. I used a couple of these with my students. Anybody who's from In-N-Out, hello, I miss my In-N-Out out here in Florida. But how much does this 100 by 100 In-N-Out cheeseburger gonna cost? All right, the kids love that. If you got some ball players, these are all done. I did this one here. Oh my gosh, I was realizing I was paying too much. I'll let you guess which one I was paying then. All right, is it cheaper to pay monthly or annually when you buy a annual pass to Disneyland? All right, what Michael's coupon should you use? That's real life math. And I had so many kids coming up to me going, hey, Miss G, my mom's using the wrong coupons. I'm like, there you go, $10 off versus a percentage off. Let's think about that, right? Anyway, so many of these. I mean, of course, he has a little bit more for upper grade because he's a former high school teacher. My 7th grade students, they loved how many pennies, and they also loved this, how many chip bags will there be? So many cool things. Passwords, oh my gosh, right? There's real life math. I think some of my passwords need to be changed. But that is just some really cool stuff. That's Robert Kaplinski. Of course, I've talked to you guys about PBL Works today. When math happens, tap into Teen Minds. Mr. Orr is a geek.com. He's amazing. And of course, I know in California, we talk about Mars tasks a lot, especially in Chronorco we did. There's a link to Mars tasks. What you want to do is, when should I include this in my lesson? That's up to you. Some of these are really great hooks into a unit where you're about to start a brand new unit. Let's say Pythagorean theorem, kind of like that last teacher. I would probably give something like what he gave as a hook to my high school students. And I would say, all right, how long is this rope? Let's talk about it, blah, blah. And then they start asking certain questions like, well, is this the same length as this? Does this make an actual triangle? Is it isosceles? And then you might have some kids who know Pythagorean theorem because technically it's taught in 8th grade. They may say, oh, well, can't you use that a squared, b squared thing? Yay, there we go. You might have some kids jumping on their phones to do research versus text their mama, which they always say they're texting their mom, and I highly doubt it. All right, so here's some great resources. I hope those help you guys out. When you're talking about lesson plans, and this is kind of where my next sort of trainings will feed off of, is when you're looking at project-based versus projects, just in general, project-based learning is sometimes often for a whole unit, or sometimes it's very specific to one standard skill. Projects, a lot of times teachers go, oh, projects, they take forever and I have to come up with materials, because we think of them building something. They don't always have to be building something. So here's kind of a layout of what that looks like. Now, if we want to look at doing a project-based learning unit, this is kind of that format you would look at here, where you launch it, you give a rubric to the students, you scaffold it through activities, workshops, lectures, research, labs. Now, I don't want you to think you're never going to teach, okay? We just want you to teach less. Get off the board, put the textbook down every once in a while, and really just be with your kids and let them teach themselves and let them teach each other, and sometimes even teach us. Then give a benchmark, some sort of assessment to see how your data is looking. If your data looks like they're getting it, let's move on. If they're not, then maybe we need to find some supports, right? And then eventually they're going to present and they're going to reflect. So here are some, I got this off of Magnifying Learning. There's a link down here at the bottom, okay? I use this one with my teachers when I'm coaching them on starting a PBL workshop. This is kind of how we lay out our lesson plans. It's a little different. We look at the standard or standards. I always try to zone them in on one because it can get a little complicated if you're trying to do more than one. The authenticated problem, the community partners that it's going to entitle, which could just be their classroom classmates as well. The end project, what are they going to do as a group, and what are they individually accountable for? And then how is this going to help them in the real world? I need them to go out and research. Where will you learn these skills in the real world? What kind of job, what kind of business is going to look for these skills that you use to solve this problem? How are you going to apply that to a job one day and be successful? All right, so again, here is my information, Jenny AOK, that's JENNIE AOK@gmail.com. If you would like, I even have a certificate for attending today that I will be more than happy to send to you. If you email me, then I will email you back. This is my personal email. It's not a spam email. I'm not going to sell your information. I don't have that kind of time. But I'm going to now open the floor to any questions you guys may have. You can put it in the chat box, or you can open your mics and just let me hear from you guys. I'd love to see what you guys all are thinking right now, and any quick questions I can kind of give you at this time. I think I blew them away. They don't know what to say. Oh, I got chat. All right, let's see my chat. Let's see what we got here. Gotta move my chat out of the way. All right. Can we use any big questions for a math concept? 100%. So sometimes when you look at your math textbook, they call them essential questions, or they'll call them the big ideas. You want to take that and just give them less information about it. You know, just kind of give them something more to think about. If you're interested in my link to my YouTube, there's my link. You can kind of get a little bit more from that text, that book that came out from Peter Gyllenhaal. We went over, it's like kind of a book concept idea where myself and my other professor friend were chatting about how to really get teachers to zone in on this different way of teaching. And you may be the black sheep in the family, and that's okay. Sometimes, you know, you have to be the rebel to get the job done. And I think it's great when other people are jumping in there and figuring things out. So I know the name of the book is Thinking Math Classroom. So I'll put it here in the chat. But I know you guys need to get going, so I won't keep you on, but you do have my email. Thank you so much for attending. Please give me a good review if you enjoyed my session, and I look forward to hearing from you guys. There is a copy to my slides at the very beginning, but I will pop that in here. You're welcome. Thank you guys so much for jumping in. Oh, somebody already posted the link. Thank you, Mindy. And I will stick around as long as you guys need me to, but if you need to take off and get ready or go stretch before the next session, please do. We all need to move a little bit. We're not used to sitting this long, are we? You're welcome, guys. Thank you.
Thank you everyone for coming. If you guys would like to leave some feedback, please use the SCED to provide that feedback for us. Thank you again, Jennifer.
Thank you, Mindy. I appreciate it.